Have you ever felt worthless? Have you ever felt empty, no good, struggled with low self-esteem, felt unloved, like no one cares? I'm going to tell you two truths. One, you are not alone. In the life of everyone, sometime in their life, everyone has days of deep despair and discouragement, where the heart feels overwhelmed and we feel disconnected and unloved. And number two, feelings can lie. Feelings can lie. And if we believe what we feel, our beliefs have power over us, power to heal or power to destroy. Jenny had been running from a faceless, formless, shadowy internal tormentor that haunted her constantly. She didn't know from where her persecutor had come, but she couldn't remember a day free from its taunting. She heard the brutal thoughts echoing in her mind. You're fat. You're gross. You're ugly. You're worthless. Nobody could love you. You're always messed up. You're bad. You're disgusting. No matter what she did, she couldn't make the thoughts stop. So she wanted to die. She believed it's all she deserved. She thought suicide was her only escape. It was hard for Jenny to talk, but eventually she told me the source of her pain. Jenny was 3 when her father walked out. One day he just left home and never returned. He divorced her mother, and she had not seen him since. She began to cry as she recounted how she missed him. She told me how she remembered her father would put her on his shoulders, and she loved to ride around on his shoulders. She loved to be held in his arms. Reluctantly, hesitantly, she told me she knew why her father left. Because I was bad. If I had been a better girl, Daddy wouldn't have left. It's my fault. What did Jenny believe? What we believe has power over us. Power to heal and power to destroy. And Jenny believed a lie. And this was the core. This was the pernicious root that had been poisoning her mind. And this lie had to be removed. And I'm going to tell you what I told Jenny. Because I know some of you have been hurt. Some of you have been mistreated and abused and betrayed. And I know some of you have heartaches and have been through painful experiences. Number one, we cannot change history. History can't be undone. I want you to imagine you have been wounded. Somebody's taken a knife and gassed your leg. Once the gash is there, we can't go back and reverse history. We can't undo it. So we have only 3 options once we've been wounded, just 3. Option number 1, deal with it as effectively as we can to bring healing as quickly as possible. Option number 2, ignore it. There's nothing wrong with me, I'll be fine. I'm okay, nothing wrong. Option number 3, purposely infect it, rub manure in it. Once we've been wounded, we only have 3 options. Emotional wounds are exactly the same. Once we've been emotionally wounded, we can't reverse history. We can't undo what happened. So we can deal with it as effectively as we can to bring healing as quickly as possible. We can ignore it. I'm fine. I'm okay. We can infect it. Jenny had infected her wound with ideas and thoughts and distortions that were not true. So we cannot change history. But what we can change, we can go back and we can evaluate the thoughts and beliefs that we drew from those events with new insight and new wisdom and change what we think and what we believe about those events. We can replace errors with truth. Jesus said, from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. The good man brings forth good out of the good stored up in him, and the evil man brings forth evil out of the evil stored up in him. And what is being taught with this principle? What is being taught is that you get a window into the soul, into the heart, into the character of other people by observing how they live. If you look out this window and we see a 40-year-old man cursing at a 5-year-old little boy, call him every foul name you've ever heard, screaming, his face is turning red, spit's coming out of his mouth, he's shouting at this little kid. Do you look out at that and go, oh man, what a horrible little boy? Is that what you think? Not even for a second, do you? What does the little boy walk away feeling like? Doesn't he walk away feeling like he's horrible? Is he? No. This is how feelings play on us. Now, does it feel horrible to be treated that way? But does that mean the little boy is horrible? No. Who do we learn about from that experience? From observing that? Who is revealing their character? The grown man, not the little boy. But all too often, we end up acting like the little boy when things don't go our way. We don't like the way it feels, so we walk away feeling like there's something wrong with us, like we're bad, like we're no good. How did Jenny file away her father's leaving? Jenny's brain at age 3 couldn't understand these truths I'm sharing with you today. So Jenny did what almost all children do when they're hurt by a parent. She blamed herself for the shortcoming of her father. In the aftermath of her father's leaving, Jenny felt abandoned, alone, and empty. She felt rejected. At age 3, her mind struggled to make sense of her father's departure. If I had been a good girl, if I'd picked up my toys, Daddy wouldn't have left. Her deep feelings of hurt and rejection, having been turned back on herself, grew into a loathsome self-image. She despised herself, hated herself, and thought everyone else did. I mean, after all, she drove her own daddy away. The echoes of her own disapproval, her own negative self-image, her own constant self-criticism constantly oppressed her. The mysterious tormentor turned out to be her own hurt feelings and distorted self-image. And as she grew older, it got worse. Her mind began to filter reality. Whenever someone complimented her, commended her, or showed appreciation for her, she discounted the affirmation and said, oh, if they really knew me, they wouldn't say that. If they really knew who I was, they wouldn't want to be around me either. But whenever someone was critical, whenever something didn't go her way, whenever someone was cruel or unkind, she grabbed onto those events as proof. Yes, see, that's what I deserve. I'm bad. I'm no good. And replayed them over and over in her mind. No matter what she did or where she went, she never got away from the tormentor because the tormentor lived within. Jenny needed to remember what the Bible teaches. James chapter 1 says that no one should say God tempts because God doesn't tempt anyone. Each one of us are tempted when we're dragged away and enticed by our own feelings. But Jesus said in John 8:32, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Jenny needed to come to realize and know the truth of who she was, the truth of what really happened, and then to experience the love that God has for her. I want you to imagine a young couple that's very poor. They're newlyweds, and they don't have much money, and so they shop frequently at yard sales and flea markets. And they don't have a mirror in their house, so one day they go to a flea market and they find a full-length mirror that hangs on the back of the door for 50 cents. And the reason it's 50 cents is the bottom third had been water damaged and was all distorted. But they didn't care. 50 cents, they could use the top two-thirds, so they bought it, hung it on the back of their door. A few years go by. They have their first child. And as their child gets old enough to toddle around, one day their child at age 2 toddles into their bedroom and looks in the mirror. And they see a grotesque and distorted face looking back. They go out on the playground, they look at the other children. They come back inside, they look in the mirror, and they see themselves grotesque and distorted and ugly. So what do? The young child goes to their room, gets out a paper bag and their crowns, and as best they can as a little kid, draws a face on that paper bag. Whenever they go out now, they wear this paper bag because they don't want anyone to see how ugly and distorted they are. As they grow older, they get much better with cosmetics. And they in high school and early college, they're really good with cosmetics. And most of the time, people don't realize that when they go out to public, they're wearing a mask. You all know what I mean when I say wearing a mask, don't you? Because underneath you feel you're so ugly and distorted that no one would ever want to actually hang out with you if they saw you for what you really look like, or at least what you think you look like. But one day you meet someone and you let this person get close to you, close enough that you take off the mask and they have a mirror that is not distorted. And you look into this mirror for the first time. Do you recognize who's looking back? That's not me. Who is that? That's not me. I don't look like that. I wished I looked like that, but that's not me. When people commend you and tell you good things, and you have this distorted image inside. You don't know me. You wouldn't say that if you really knew me. That's not me. And who are the mirrors that we look into? Where do those distorted images come from? Those early experiences in childhood. We get this image in our mind that's warped and distorted. What is the problem in our story? Is that the face of the child is warped and distorted, or the mirror was warped and distorted? The mirror was warped and distorted. And what is the mirror that we can look into as adults to fix the distortion? The mirror of truth. We must become lovers of the truth. Jenny began to reprocess the meaning of what happened to her. Yes, it hurt when Daddy walked out, but she began to realize, wait, did Daddy's walking out actually define who I am? Does it define my worth? I gave some analogies to her. I told her, imagine I have a $100 bill and I hand it to you. Would it have a certain amount of value? And she said, yeah. And I said, how about if I wadded it up in a wad? Would it be worth less? Well, no. How about if I threw it on the ground and stepped on it and got dirt on it? Would it be worth less? No. And I said, that's you. It doesn't matter if you've been kicked around, knocked around, gotten dirty in this life. Your worth, your value never changes. Never changes. How about you're driving along and you see an abandoned baby. Somebody left it in the side of the road in a ditch. What would you do? It's alive. What would you do? She said, well, I'd stop and get it. I said, why? Who's that baby to you? Well, because it's a baby. I said, does the baby have any value? Of course it does. I said, how? How could it? Its parents have left it. How could it have any value? I said, that's you. It doesn't matter what other people think of you. Your value is inherent in who you are. And who are you? Who are you? Do you know who you are? A child of God? Do you know your royalty? That you will sit on a throne one day? A universal throne that Christ shares his throne with you and me? That's who you really are. Do you know who doesn't want you to see that? Because what we believe has power over us. And if he can get us to believe lies, he is the father of, then he has power over us. And we shall know the truth, and the truth will set us free. Jenny came to realize the truth of who she is, a child of God. And she began to open her heart to embrace the truth. She began to understand the truth of what happened, that her father's actions were revelations of her father's issues and struggles, not of who she was and her values. And she began to open her heart to Christ, and gradually, slowly, over time, the torment began to subside. And she began to find peace. You see, we have power over what we believe. But what we believe has power over us, power to heal and to destroy. It's the truth that sets free. It's the truth that heals, and we must become lovers of the truth. Pursue the truth and follow it where it leads.